Hey everybody, it's Ben from BH Drum Academy, and today I'm talking about my favorite thing, practice. As the old saying goes, practice makes perfect, and you can't get better at anything without practice, practice, practice. So today I'm going to show you how to structure your own practices and get the most out of your practice time. Now, before we get started, we have some things to consider. First of all, how much time do we have to practice in our daily lives? I know some of us have jobs, some of us have school and other commitments that we gotta do. And it's not like we have all this free time in the world. And in a perfect world, could we sit down at the drums and play for 10 hours a day? Yeah, that would be awesome, but it's not realistic. Any practice is good practice, whether it's 1 hour long, 2 hours long, 3 hours long, or even if it's 30 minutes long or even 10 minutes long. Any practice is good practice, but we have to make time for ourselves in order to get better at the drums. Also consider the space you have to practice. If you have just a small bedroom at home, if you have a quiet room to play in, I know that drums are, of course, super loud. So you have to be considerate around the other people that are living with you or in the space that you share. Also consider, what equipment do you have? I know that some of us have a drum kit, and some of us have, whether it's an acoustic one or electric drum kit, but some of us just even have just a drum pad or none at all. Can you practice without a drum kit? Yes, you totally can. It's ideal to have a drum kit because you're going to be learning some of the how to play songs on a drum kit directly, but you don't need a drum kit to be able to practice. So always keep that in mind. When you're not able to sit down to your drums and play them, you can still practice things without the drums themselves. The other major important thing that you want to consider is what your drumming goals are. What are you trying to achieve with your practice? What is the direction that you are going with your drums? This is a fundamental thing that you need to know before you practice and before you plan all of your future practices. What are you trying to achieve? Once we have our goals figured out, now we can start to actually get sitting down and trying to figure out what do we actually practice and how do we do it. Now, something that's really helpful that I find is, especially because the drum instrument itself is really, really loud, especially the acoustic drums, which are these ones, having some tools in your toolkit that could help you dampen or quiet the sound of the drums is something very helpful. So for example, they have these drum mutes and dampeners that people can put onto things. I've seen people put towels over drums or even things over the cymbals. They've had to get pretty creative as a way to quiet the drums down. So instead of a really, really loud crashing noise and booming noises from the drums, it actually dampens the sound quite a lot, and it's a lot more manageable in a shared space. Now, all of these things I just talked about are really important that you do want to keep in mind, because it's going to matter when you start to plan how many times you're going to be practicing in a week, how much you're going to be practicing in a week, where you're going to be practicing in a week. All of these things are important to keep in check. Okay, so let's talk about what practice actually involves and how to build your own practice plan and your own practice routine. All practices should definitely involve the following things: a warm-up, a portion where it's working towards your goals, a portion specific to what you want to learn or even what you need to learn. For example, you need to learn all of these songs before you go and play a show. So you need to probably spend some time learning said songs. A portion that promotes improvisation and creativity, because you don't want to just be all cookie cutter on the drums and just do hi-hat, snare, bass over and over again. You want to try all these new skills that you learned, try them out on the drums, try these magical fills, or try and reenact what you may have heard in some of your favorite songs, and try and just get creative. That's the whole point of drums and music, is being creative. You should also have something in your practices that is fun and successful for you. You want to feel successful and feel like you've got something out of the process in every single one of your practices. If you're feeling very frustrated at the end of every single practice, chances are you're not going to have a good experience with it, and you're going to feel less likely to come back and try again. So always keeping it fun and positive and successful is going to help you keep coming back. And lastly, the behind the scenes stuff. Listening to music, studying up on music, critical listening to some of your favorite songs. What is the snare doing in this song? What is the bass drum doing in this song? And you just actually sitting and appreciating music and the drums instrument themselves. And maybe it's learning how to tune the drums, or how to take care of your drums and what types of drums there are out there. And maybe it's learning about the drumsticks and things like that. So it's not just directly to playing the drums, but some things behind the scenes that will also glue all of these concepts together. Okay, let me share with you my secret as to how I plan my practices for not just myself, but a lot of my students. And I'm going to tell you what you can think about and how you should structure your practice. Every single time you sit down at the drums to practice, you should always include 3 major components. And each of these components are equal in time. So that means, for example, if you're practicing for 30 minutes long, each of these components are equal in time, meaning you're going to spend 10 minutes on the first one, 10 minutes on the second, 10 minutes on the third one to make a total of 30. If you're practicing for an hour, it's 20, 20, and 20. If you're practicing for 3 hours, well, guess what? It's 1, 1, 1. The 3 key things you need to practice in every practice are this: technique, maintenance, and warm-ups, the learning portion, and the application to music. Let's go through each of them really quick. So in the first portion of your practice, it's called technique, maintenance, and warm-up. And what you're doing is you're trying to remember and warm up your body with things that you already know. Right? Perhaps it's a favorite rudiment that you do. Perhaps it's playing a favorite beat or a favorite song that you know, and something that you know very, 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 very well. It should not be any brand new material here. It should be stuff you already know. And it's kind of like warming up the body in any kind of athletic event or a workout or any kind of physical activity. You have to warm up your body first so that it can perform at its best. Drumming takes a lot of brain power, and your brain controls all the programs and it tells basically all of your limbs and everything in your body what to do. So we're warming up something called our central nervous system, and basically that means all the nerves. So by warming up and getting familiar and doing things that we already know, our brain is actually warming up all the nerves and the muscles in things that we already know and preparing us for the hard work that's going to happen. Sometimes people call this waking up your muscle memory, but there's no such thing as muscle memory. Muscles don't have brains. Your brain's up here, not here. So our goal for this is to do some warm-up exercises, and we're getting our brain and our nerves awake and alive and ready to go. The second portion is our learning portion. And this is where you have brand new material that you're trying to learn for maybe the first time, or something that you really found challenging. Now, the key thing here is that you want to be challenged. If it isn't challenging for you, it's not going to change you. So this stuff is going to be generally brand new material that you will find somewhat difficult. Now, the rule of thumb in this area is that if you want to get better at something, you have to commit the time. And repetition is your friend. So chances are you might be starting at a really slow beats per minute and a slow speed when you're learning these things. And you're going to gradually start to build up the speed until you get to a level that you're comfortable with. But remember, we're not going for comfort here. We're going for challenge. So we want to be challenged here, and repeating ourselves over and over again is something that's going to be really helpful for us. Now, our third and final thing that we put in our practice plans is something called the application to music. And what we do in this area is we take everything that we learn from our technique, maintenance, and warm-up routine and our learning portion and try and directly apply it to the drums and within beats or grooves or drum fills. And we try and basically take the things that we just learned and use them in real time. When you're trying this for the first time, it can be very, very challenging. Especially if you're trying to play at a certain high speed and high caliber right off the start. My high recommendation is to start slow and build your way up slowly until you get to a level that feels more confident. A common thing that people do is they put on the metronome at a certain beats per minute, and they try and put the things that they just learned into some of their favorite grooves or some of their patterns or some of the things that they've been working on that they need to work on for their goals. Some people put on drumless tracks, which are basically tracks you can find, whether on YouTube or online somewhere, without the drums removed, and they're basically putting their own drums on top of that. And this is where you start to instill your improvisation and your creativity, and this is where that part's gonna thrive. Some people just play a beat and continuously change it all the time and vary it and try to make different beats and try and experiment a little bit to see with what works. And that part is totally okay to do. Also, if you're a person who needs to learn a bunch of songs, this portion can be used for that as well. So you can do the learning portion of some of the songs that you need to learn towards the end of the practice. And of course, most importantly, end with something fun. Especially in the application part, play whether it's your favorite song or a groove that you're finally feeling really good about, whatever it might be, end at a successful note. That's gonna keep you motivated to come back to the drums for the next time. So that's how I would recommend you structure your practices. Now keep in mind, all of this is personalized to you. Your life is different than my life and someone else's life and someone else's life. Some people have the luxury of living alone and having an empty house and being able to make as much noise as they want to. And some people don't have that luxury or even have the luxury of owning their own drum kit. Whatever your situation is, all of these practice plans are gonna be right for you. So sit down, look at your calendar, make and schedule time for yourself in your life to what are you gonna do to work on the drums. None of your practice plan has to be set in stone. You can try it for a week and see how you feel. And if some things need to change, then change it. Not a big deal. But what I want you to do is I want you to get a little bit more structured with how you practice. Make time for yourself, especially with the self-care, like you would for the rest of your life, but make time to get better at your craft of playing drums. After you finish every single practice, what I like to do and what I'd recommend is putting it in your practice log. I've attached a PDF copy of my practice log to this video here so you can grab it and use it for your own purpose. But having a log sheet of writing down what you practiced and when you practiced and how long you practiced for is gonna be a good reminder for you for the next time that you come back to the drums. So you remember, oh, I practiced this last time. So now you remember, maybe you can have some guidance of what you're gonna practice for next time. I hope this has been helpful for you for learning how to practice and structure your practices and finding a way to get better at the drums. If you need any help with your drumming, feel free to contact me on my website and check out all my free resources and my lesson packs on www.bhdrumacademy.com. See you later, folks.